Welcome to the It Factor podcast. Thank you for being here today. I'm actually joined by Stevie-Ann Dovico, the CAO at Beyond Bank Australia. Stevie, it's great to have you here. How are you today?
No, I'm well. Thanks for having me.
It's great seeing a familiar face too. We've had you on the talk show before, so I'm very lucky to have you here again in the podcast studio. We're going to talk a little bit around your career first and maybe wind the clock back as well. And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about a pivotal moment in your career that maybe shaped your path to becoming a tech leader. Talk us through maybe something that comes to mind off the top of your head.
Yeah. I feel like, there's so many moments. I feel like every day can be a moment. But I think like if we're kind of talking about like my career in tech, I had spent a lot of time in the business. Like my career is not an atypical CIO type career where, you start as a developer and kind of work your way up in a very like narrow linear way. I started in consulting, and that was really wonderful, really good consulting toolkit, but spent my whole career in banking, moved into banking, did everything from risk and compliance to strategy and innovation to enterprise transformation to product, like the whole lot. And I think the pivotal moment was I was actually really lucky to have an amazing leader who was a CIO at the time give me an opportunity to take a leadership role and experience like leading in tech. And I remember and this was a really long time ago. So like it was not that cool to be in tech. It wasn't like when the fintechs were around and it was really like we barely had cloud. Like it was
it was
a nerdy profession, and coming from like what I thought was like super cool. I'm in the business. I'm in group strategy, innovation.
I'm in change management.
Yeah, like I'm changing things. I remember having this conversation with my husband, who is an actual techie person, right? Like he's like networks and infrastructure and like pulling apart computers and hardware, and and I was like, I think I'm going to take a role in tech.
And what did he say? What did he say?
He was like, but you love doing things. Like you want to learn. Like, or you go to work to learn. So just like give it a crack. Like if you don't like it, do something else, right?
Exactly.
And he had also worked for this leader, and he was like she's great. You are going to love working with her, and that's the most important thing, right? And like that is really for me. Like there's kind of two things I think about when I take my next opportunity is like, is this going to be super challenging and am I going to learn? And secondly, like, am I going to have a really great leader that I can learn from and that can back me and whatever? And so like those two things were held true. So I was like, I'll just give it a go. And it was honestly the best decision I had ever made. And what made me a really strong leader was actually that diverse experience. So like, a lot of what you do at a senior level in tech is like work with business stakeholders and different stakeholders like from across the business, and your ability to translate business to tech and tech to business to get stuff done and really align that business and tech strategy is like it's invaluable, that experience. And then as you get more senior, like having conversations with executives and then the board, like you're rarely having these really super technical conversations. You're actually kind of like talking about outcomes that are grounded in technology, but that's a business conversation. So yeah, like long-winded answer, but like that's kind of the
100%. I love the part about having strong leadership and someone to take you under their wing as well. I think that's super important too. And then you becoming that leader that, I guess, giving back in a way when you've had someone else teach you and bring you up the ranks, you go, you know what? For the next leaders, I really want to help them out and help them, I guess, grow and understand the power of tech as well. Now, you've held leadership roles across various organisations. You've stayed in banking, as you said. So beyond bank, you're currently at, but you've worked at NAB and Westpac. I mean, how have these diverse experiences shaped your approach to leadership?
Yeah, I think, as I said, every new experience shapes your approach to leadership. And a lot of this is kind of test and learn or trial and error, mostly error. I mean, like I'm not one to be like afraid of like failure or like, if I don't get things right, like that's okay. Like as long as you're learning, right, and you apply the learnings, from your previous like failures or whatever. And so, for me, it's like, you start with kind of a couple of people and you've got this really good testing ground, and you kind of, maybe get some more people, and then you start to, get a geographically diverse team, and you get more, and all of a sudden you're like, got 600 people globally, and that's like a whole other challenge. And there's all these kind of like pivots that you do because of the differences in the leadership that you have to have. But I feel like the foundations are, like, for me, hold the same. Like, I always believe that with your leadership team, if you hire leaders, you must hire people, like people leaders. Those people have to like people leading. There's a lot of people that think, oh, okay, well, in order to get ahead, like, I've got to go into a leadership role, and it's wrong. Like, there are two, especially in technology, there's two very distinct paths. There is a very solid path to grow, in your seniority without having to people leadership, because you're a technical specialist. And as a leader, you've got to hone in on those people and help them grow their technical speciality and give them opportunities to lead in that speciality. But if they're not passionate about people, don't give them people, and where you have people that are passionate about people, give them people, and so, like, for my leadership team, if you're leading people, you need to like leading people. You can't just be good at what you do.
Yes.
I like to hire people that are hands-on, that are technically competent enough to get their hands dirty. And especially as I move to, like, beyond bank, the scale is small. Like, it's not, thousands of people. You don't have these layers. You can't really afford to hire just managers. You've got to have technically competent people who are good people leaders. So, I've been able to really focus in on doing that. And then, as a leader, you're then leading leaders. So that's really different to, like, just leading, like me being the leader and you being the person that I'm leading. Like, leading leaders is about, applying your experiences and teaching people how to lead their teams. Yeah. And that's a really wonderful, like, I love that, because it's like, it kind of like, it melds into that mentoring space, which I'm really passionate about. And that's really exciting. And then as you, like, tweak that and you kind of go, like, maybe nationally diverse, you've got to, really be very good at this hybrid stuff. And then, going globally diverse, again, the cultural factors come into play. And that's, I love that. Like, every leadership opportunity that I've had has been just such a wonderful, like, learning opportunity. So,
And I loved your point about, as well, the importance of soft skills, not just those technical skills, but the soft skills as well. And often there's really that importance now with the T-shaped skills development, not just having someone focused on the one skill and being really, really good at the technical stuff, but also having other diverse skills as well in their skill set. So super important. And look, you've got extensive experience in both project and change management as well. I mean, how do you maintain team morale and engagement during these periods of intense change? We've seen so much change technology-wise. How do you still kind of keep up the spirits and get everyone involved and get that buy-in from the wider team?
Yeah, I think it's always a balance of, like, emotional and rational in this case. It always is. And, like, some people will err on each side, but like basic 101 for me is, like, really honestly explain the rationale behind the change. Like, why are things changing, or what is the need for the change, or why the pivot, or whatever. That always gets you a little bit of the way there. Like, if people can understand the reason for the change, they might not agree with it, but at least they understand. That's, like, step one. And then really genuinely listening to people's concerns, because I kind of feel like, you can unpick some of that emotional tension around a change, or, like, any emotional feelings around a change, by actually just having people feel heard and, like, active listening and really addressing concerns. Like, people feel heard, they're more likely to, like, they understand the change, the reason for it, they feel heard, they understand you've considered their concerns, and then, like, don't, like, try to avoid changes that are really massive at one, like, point. Like, if you need to get here, like, do change in little steps,
stages,
you know, because it becomes more digestible. And even if you have to tell people, actually, like, here's where we're going, but what we're going to do is this, and we're going to test it out, and not be afraid to kind of go, well, you know, we were going here and we've taken this step, but actually that's not the right step. Like that pivoting and being really honest and open about where like things have gone wrong or they haven't gone to plan. You know, people appreciate that. I think part of that is really about being genuine, and I really am focused on like being honest and open with the team and listening when there is changes and, you know, talking about the reason why.
And especially when you've got a long-term goal as well. Often that goalpost that you set and you're bringing people along for the ride during that journey, sometimes that goalpost can change depending on what happens at each stage as well. So it's I guess it's about being a bit agile and flexible as well when it comes to plans and hearing people out, really hearing their concerns. I mean, from a banking perspective, I know that banking has changed a whole lot in the last 20 years. How do you manage people that are quite, I guess, protective over their projects, their technology, their spreadsheets, all of that? How do you manage that kind of attitude that people might have been in the business for 20 years plus and they're like, guys, we're going to actually implement a new tool and someone might not be that keen on it? What kind of, how do you work around that?
Oh, I mean, I think you've got to just, so the people that have done the same thing for so many years, like you've really got to actually respect the technical competency they have around like a capability. Like it might not be the tool of the future, but you know, like they have spent a lot of time there. So naturally they're going to be like feel protective or whatever, and like part of that is like the human identifies with that, like this is my role, like it's a purpose thing.
Yes.
And so really like honing in on that emotion, like even openly having that conversation, like I know like that's your thing and like this is like you feel really connected to this, like this, like the outcome that we get from this thing is this. Right? Like, and are we happy with this? Maybe, but will it take us to where we need to be? Like, will it help us be a sustainable bank for the long term? Will it like carry us through these periods of change? Like, yes, no, usually not. Like, you know, you can get people to understand, oh, it's probably, not gonna. Okay, there's that, this is a new thing that we're gonna do, or here's a new tool or whatever, you know, like here's your role in that. You know, if people feel like they still have a purpose or a role, or, you know, like there's a thing, like, you know, I've got a patch that I can be accountable for, then like they're probably more amenable to that change. But I think I've seen so often where people were like, we're throwing that out, we're doing this thing, and then people feel like, oh no, like
they feel disposable as well.
Well, if that, like if I've tied my career to this thing, like what's my new purpose, or where is the accountability that, you know, I love to have, or, you know, that kind of stuff. So just distilling that and like making it really overt that actually here's your new purpose and here's a new ground to grow, like makes it easier for people to transition.
I love the sentiment around saying what they did and their dedication to, I guess, their expertise within that tool that they are quite protective of is respecting that as well. I think that's important. I actually haven't heard that much before, is respecting what they've done for 20 years and going, we respect this, you've done an amazing job and we want to make your job actually easier and add value to it, and let's add this amazing tool. So it will change the role a little bit, but it can make your life easier, but also improve the business. So I guess it's just explaining that to them, isn't it? Really, just taking them along for that journey.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you're at Beyond Bank at this moment, and I want to talk to you about how you're leveraging technology to create a better customer and employee experience with technology at Beyond Bank as well. Talk us through the journey there and what's happening at Beyond Bank at the moment.
Yeah. So Beyond Bank is very, very uniquely as a bank customer focused. And I know like everyone will say we're customer obsessed. Like I've never been in an organization that is quite so genuinely customer and community focused. It actually drives everything we do. Like every paper I have, like I've got to talk about, it's like anything I want to do, connection to community, impact to customer, like all of that kind of stuff. So like my approach with technology specifically is like a twofold approach. There is like one, yes, where customers feel like they want to use technology, we want to provide a really excellent digital experience for them so that they can do the things they want to do online very easily. A big part of our customer kind of cohort, they like to be in person. So like the thing that we're known for is that really rich human to human banking experience. So like with branches, we're more likely to open them than close them. We have a really our call center, like I've sat there and listened to it, and you just the genuine care that they take when they have these conversations with customers is just amazing. So yes, we want customers to self-serve where they want to, but like the human-to-human experience is really important. So then there's that second kind of pillar of the strategy, which is around how do we use technology to enable our frontline to do their job really seamlessly and really effortlessly, because then we do cultivate that human-to-human relationship, but it is then like a genuine flowing conversation. So a lot of what we're doing and we're thinking about constantly making easier is how do we use technology to sort of pass through the like mounds of policies and whatever we have, so that we can bring forward like almost the next best action for the front line when they're having a conversation, or like how do we bring forward all the data that we have around customers so that they can have a really good understanding of the profile before they've even had that conversation, like at the point of appointment booking. Or with the frontline, like call center, it's, based on the conversation, like what could be the next best response, or what are the things that you might not have thought about. So it's that real augmentation of that human experience through technology that like enables our kind of business strategy and our ability to serve our customers and communities better.
I love that people first approach as well, because often we hear about banks moving to, or any sort of business that has that customer facing experience, moving to, I guess, more of the chatbot option and things like that. But I think it's still important to have that human touch, and you hear different, I guess, responses from different customers. And for me, I think I prefer to chat to a human being. I think, and then some people prefer, if we want to do something really easy and ask a simple question, ask it to a chatbot. But if you do want to ask a complicated issue or deal with a complicated concern or query, you do want to kind of deal with a human being, but you want that human to have all the data right in front of them so they don't have to ask you a million questions as well. So I guess it's creating that experience, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
It's applying the technology, the right technology, the right situation. Like we have a chatbot too, but you use that for like really like fast, simple queries.
Yes.
I love using that, like especially like let's say like Woolworths, if I have an order and they're missing something or whatever, like I don't want to have to talk to someone. I just want to go like, here I have a problem. It's a missing item. Which item? Yes, this. Boom, refund. Like great.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
If I'm having a conversation about spending millions of dollars on my investment or my first home.
100%.
Like I kind of feel like for me personally, it's a conversation I want to have with a human, but we would use technology to augment that human's ability to get you the best deal or provide you the most appropriate advice at that time.
Tailored to you as well with all that. If you can have that data right in front of you, that customer service representative has all that knowledge in front of them to offer the best possible option, I guess. So that's fantastic. And I mean, in your view, what emerging technologies do you think hold the most potential in transforming financial services and the industry in the next few years? I know Gen AI is often top of mind, but what sort of Gen AI use cases though? Because often Gen AI is a big topic. It's not just one piece of technology. There's so many different versions of Gen AI that we could implement. What do you think is the most transformative?
Gen AI, like it's just like you're augmenting your human capability. Like we would use that to augment. Like it's for us, it's not about replacing people. It's just not philosophically how we operate. We're always trying to give people, even if that job doesn't exist, like a different job in the organization. It's so for like the use of Gen AI, it's augmentation. Like I talked about some of the use cases, like bringing forward the most important information live in that conversation, chatbots so that they can generate better like answers or whatever. Like I think actually like some of the most like exciting and like worrying for me technology, like I think is actually around quantum computing, like the ability to, solve really complex problems with masses of data, like just where we've sizes that we've never seen before is like really great in like there's loads of use cases, but the like worrying or challenging thing is that actually these massive technologies have the ability to break any of the encryption that we've kind of ever built. And that is a very scary possibility. And I know there's loads of people working on how do we, prevent that situation. But like that's the thing that like, keeps me up at night. So yeah, like quantum, I feel like people need to start talking more about quantum.
We actually just did a talk show similar to the one that you joined us on around quantum computing. We spoke to a few experts and they were talking about how in a few years we're going to see it start to be implemented within businesses, but for really complex algorithms as well. But if they do, you're right, if they do get in the hands of the cyber criminals, it can break the toughest of encryptions as well. So it is, it's a concerning thought when you think about that as well and about the future of, I guess, our data privacy and our cybersecurity future. I guess that's the thing with emerging technologies. We've got plenty of opportunities for us, but the cyber criminals are also getting their hands on these technologies.
They're better resourced. They've got more money. Like, it's like they don't have rules and regulations that we have to, like, banks have to navigate, but with these, with nascent technology, new and emerging, like it's opportunities and risks, like there are tons of really exciting use cases for cybersecurity and frauds and scam detection that, we will implement using generative AI, but it's a very cautiously optimistic kind of approach because, it is nascent technology. So you want to really make sure that you get it right. And there's, ethical concerns and data and privacy and security, all of that.
Yeah.
But really such exciting times.
It is super exciting. And I know you mentioned you love learning and that you always want to be challenged. And I think this is the most exciting time to almost be in tech right now, just seeing we're almost at a crossroads with regulatory compliance is meeting the rapid advancement that we're seeing with technology as well. I mean, how do you think Australia is faring compared to the rest of the world at the moment?
It's with banks, we probably bear the brunt of that regulatory scrutiny, to be honest, and for good, for really good reason.
Of course.
Because we deal with people's money.
Yeah.
That's really important.
That's important data as well.
And important data. And, I think, there's really quite a lot of regulation in our industry. But actually it was the ex-CEO of NAB that talked about, if you boil it down, it's the most important part around regulation is keeping your customers happy. If you keep your customers happy and their data safe and everything, they won't complain as much. That noise, there's no noise then that goes to the regulator who wants to create more rules about this to make this noise go away. So it's kind of that reinforcing cycle. The basis of this is really listen to your customers and keep them happy. And that way, it's not so much over regulation or whatever because you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I think we're probably the UK is a whole other kettle of fish that, especially with their legislation around scams and having banks accountable for scams. We've got a really important framework around our own ability, but that takes it to the next level. And so, just all the regulation and the change, it makes it really hard to keep up. But, it's an important part of keeping that.
100%. It's obviously vital, but it's interesting because every region has almost their own regulations at the moment. Australia's just introduced some new scam regulation around cybersecurity as well. So it's super important for us to I guess keep an eye on all of it, especially at Europe. I find that Europe leads the charge. Sometimes the EU leads the charge, and Australia follows suit as well. But what do you think's next from a security perspective, and what do you think banks, I guess, should keep in mind when it comes to protecting our data? You obviously mentioned the concern with Gen AI and cyber criminals getting their hands on Gen AI, but fraud is also a big concern as well from a banking perspective, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's the thing, like, you know, if you think about the things that, like, I think about all the time, it's like cybersecurity, fraud, scams. Like, so there's one part of, like, how do we make sure we've got the right controls in place and our systems are robust and we've got the right observability and monitoring, and we're like preventing and detecting and responding and all of that kind of stuff. Like an inordinate amount of what I do goes into like the very foundations of like technology. It's not
just
even the exciting
what we have.
Technology. Yeah. Like I have to tell my team, like a lot of what we do is not the like sexy side of IT, but it is actually the most important, because you're at a bank, you know, like you've got customers, basic customer needs. Like, I give you my money, please keep it secure, like safe, and give it to me when I want, and that's security and availability. And so like a lot of what we do is focused on security and availability, and like it's really tricky to keep up because, like, as I said, these cyber criminals are far better resourced and with way more money and less rules to, you know, like navigate. So it is an uneven playing field. So yeah, like you do your best, but it's a large portion of your investment pool goes into like making sure you've got robust systems and capability to prevent this and respond. And then also with customers, like that's a whole other thing, is like the scams is how do you, like a lot of what we think about is how do we help our customers help themselves. So like what is the education that we need to like put in place or make available for customers to like prevent being scammed? Or even, you know, when you're thinking about customer experience, actually what we've done is like put friction into the customer experience, which is so counter to like how we would want to operate. Like you always want to be like least clicks, most effortless, but actually we've had to put in friction into the experience
stages,
so that like we, you know, we're asking, but like, are you sure? Is this the right, you know, this account? You've never paid this one before. Like, you know, it's all of that, but that's like a lot of like, I mean, in the past when we've done that, actually like a lot of the feedback has come back and customers have thanked us. I feel more safe now that I have this extra check. And you think, oh God, that's like a counter to how I thought that would work out. But you know,
I tend to agree as well, because sometimes you've gone, especially with how easy it is to open up something. I've had my phone in my back pocket and almost done a little bit of a pocket dial and pressed a few buttons and something can go. So if you've got that extra stage where it says, are you sure? Yes, I want to do this. And it's got those levels of checking if someone wants to transfer some funds or things like that. I think actually I can imagine a lot of customers would thank you for that. And I think you made a fantastic point around also I think we were talking just before the actual podcast started about educating all our customers as well, because you don't click a link on email anymore. We're told not to. So you want to make it as easy as possible for customers, but also you want to protect them. So there's that balance, isn't there? And also, educating them as to why you've added that extra step, because sometimes they might go, oh, that's really annoying. I don't want to have to click that extra button, but it's actually super important as well. And I don't love that multi-factor authentication where I've got work emails and I have to sign in with a special app and all of that. I don't love it because it adds a bit of time to my experience. But then I go, actually, I'm so glad they're doing this. Yeah. And it's around that education piece, isn't it, really? And educating, I guess, your users too. I mean, how do you approach educating your employees too when it comes to technology, but protecting themselves as an employee? Because it's often them that are the target of attacks.
I mean, we do like the standard sort of things. Like we always do, like we run phishing campaigns. Like, we literally ran one yesterday. It was really funny because everyone kind of got it at the same time, and like they all looked at me because it's a really small office in Sydney, and they're like, "So Michael's not sending us a $500 voucher, right?" And I'm like, guys. Why would let's just think, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And so then it's about like, like we've run little campaigns on like, click this button. This is how you send something to like our phishing internal team so that they can filter through some of these things. Like if you're unsure, you may as well just send it. Like, if it's really, really important, someone will like maybe call you. Even then, like be vigilant with your calls. Like, we run training all the time. We've got loads of like that kind of online training, but conscious that, I'm really conscious that people just kind of click through this. So like we've really like thought long and hard about how do we make the awareness training like funny and fun, because then people like will watch it, or the one or two people that watch it talk about how funny it is, and then everyone like gets else. FOMO and then they want to watch it. So like we did a little clip with these two weird looking puppets about locking your screen when you're in the office, and now like it was some like lock your screen rap, and now like if people get up and there's like a screen open, they're like, oh, remember the rap, like you got to lock your screen that. Like little things like that. Or like I had my daughter we were doing like Patch Tuesday, and we needed people to like restart their laptop, so I got her to like record a video about like turn your laptop on and off. And like here's how easy, like even a 7-year-old can turn on and off a laptop. So like just using clever and creative ways to like make the things that are actually serious and very important funny and fun, and then like that, like people absorb that, and
Yes, and it's almost basic human nature, knowing that people want to have a bit of fun. They're engaged by a bit of community and having a laugh as well. But it is a serious thing, so it's somehow managing that. But I loved that you got your daughter involved. And how does she find technology? I mean, she's grown up in an age of technology. Is she a whiz on a mobile phone?
Oh, yeah. It's hard to get them off the mobile phone, right? You're like, oh, don't you want to ride your bike or like, I don't know, go outside and do some cars? Yeah. I'm so busy. Go Roblox. Like I need to buy this new octopus. It's just, like this. It's just wow. I mean, I probably like if that existed when I grew up, I would probably
have done the same
too. Yeah. Like no, but so for me, like what I find, like I say, okay, great. Like it's really exciting that a young female has an interest in technology. I kind of try to look at it that way, and I go like, I'm really passionate actually about if you want more females in technology later on as a career, you've really got to get them interested right from the start and getting them wanting to choose technology subjects. And actually that happens like way before they need to pick electives. Like, you want, like my daughter's in year 2, like we spend like a lot of time like on the weekends. If you like Roblox so much, like, okay, let's download Roblox Studio, and I want you to learn how to make a game that you play, because I want you to understand kind of design and like even like instructional design, and like there's so many like cool simple kind of coding languages that you can get kids into, like Scratch, and like even Osmo has this kind of like learn really basic foundational skills around like computer game design or whatever. So I try to get, that's my approach, is like, okay, like let's not fight it. She's going to want to do this.
Let's embrace it.
Like let's embrace it and help her learn like how this has become, and then also like really focus on like safety and online safety and cyber safety and bullying and all of that kind of stuff. Like you just really got to focus in on like educating your children around like, no, you don't share, not even your name, you don't share where you go to school, you don't talk about where you live. In fact, let's just disable the chat. Like that kind of thing.
I'll turn that chat off, shall we?
Yeah.
No, and I think it's so right in saying that we want to embrace the fact that they're super interested in tech too. And I loved you talking about how we need to get girls interested in tech from a young age, because I remember I guess, getting my first mobile phone. I think I was 15, and it was just you got to press a couple of buttons to get to text, and that's all you can do.
Yes.
You've got to, all you can make is calls, and I think I could play, it was Tetris or something like that.
Snake, maybe.
Snake. But for me, it was a guy thing to be into tech and be into computers and coding. And I also thought, it's just a back end thing. I didn't think of the power of technology when it comes to the business, an overall business organization and reaching their goals. So, I mean, it could be really cool to see your daughter work up her way up the ranks into, I guess, a tech role as well. But what would you say to a company that is looking at building their diversity around having more women represented in their tech roles as well? Like, how do we get there?
Yeah, I think there's loads of seemingly small things that you can do that will help encourage more women into tech, and more women into any roles, gender diversity. There's things around really screening your CVs for any kind of overt gender type language. There's an education piece around giving it a go. I often tell, I do a lot of mentoring, and I often tell people, the only race you can't win is the one you don't enter. And we know that women are less likely to put themselves out there for an opportunity traditionally if they haven't met all of the criteria. I'm always just, are you interested in this? Do you think you'd be good at it? Just give it a crack. The worst that can happen is you don't get it.
Yeah.
Whatever. Actually, hopefully you get to the interview stage and you get some experience doing interviews. Everything is a new experience, just have a go. And I think, the other thing is I get a lot of questions about, how do you operate in a male-dominated industry? I'm well, I try to not look at people as gendered. I just okay, I'm dealing with this person, their function is X thing. This is HR and that's finance and that's risk, and it doesn't matter who the person is. That's the function, and this is, we need to operate, and here is our common goal, and that is a really good strategy. I think it works for me. And also understanding that in technology, there's no physical limitation for a woman to participate, right? It's not let's say arguably men genetically are built in a way that they could lift heavier things. We're not lifting bricks.
No.
This isn't digging trenches. This is about the power of the mind. And that's equal. Yeah. So there's no actual barrier to entry. In fact, the barrier is the mindset. And, when you shift that, that is really incredible.
Really powerful.
It's a powerful thing. And so, just having the right mindset, giving it a go, that's, and then, on the opposite end, making sure that employees are really actively encouraging women to participate. When we were at NAB, we created a program with AWS, and it was we were the first company to do it, and it was called She Builds Cloud Up, and it was about giving a bunch of women, not inside of tech, anywhere across the business, the opportunity to get certified with a cloud practitioner skill, and we got in the first cohort, it was 500 women that participated, and they weren't all from technology, and it just gives people a real testing ground to understand actually it's not it's this, the barrier to entry is not so hard. You can learn these things are teachable, and then from that program there was the ability to actually go and then implement those skills in a role or in a project or whatever, so that people start to feel progressively more comfortable with new sounding skills that they just wouldn't have otherwise considered if we didn't build this program. And that was really successful. So, those sort of things as well.
I also love the fact that some of the women weren't even from tech backgrounds. That's fantastic that they thought, you know what, I'm going to try this opportunity out, and probably found some sort of progression in their career and took a bit of a pivot. But found themselves doing something really cool and a really vital part of the business as well, which is just awesome. So, I mean, speaking of advice, I'd love to know for someone that's working their way up the ranks within an organisation, maybe in the tech space or not, what advice would you give them when it comes to, I guess, growing as a leader and being that leader? You've given a lot of advice during the session anyway, but what's a key piece of advice you'd like to give them, or maybe that you've heard from another mentor that really meant a lot to you?
Yeah. So like outside of that, like give it a crack, like just go for it. The worst case, you won't get it, or, you know, like the only race you can't win is the one you're not in, kind of thing. I don't think like people spend enough time as they grow through the ranks or whatever, as they grow their capability, on learning how to give good feedback or getting good at feedback. And people tend to be like really shy away from feedback, and feedback is actually a gift. And your ability to give feedback, especially developmental feedback, is really important as a leader, because that's how you drive high performance. So like really just like there's tons of books you can read, like having those tough conversations is a really important, how to navigate tough conversations is a really important skill. And like, so, you know, like reading about it, practicing it, learning, like that's a really important thing. I think also the power of influence and understanding your context, I think is really important as kind of an emerging leader. I always talk to people about like, do a stakeholder map, like literally put yourself in the middle and then like draw out your kind of all the people you interact with and whatever, and like literally write like what is the like thing that's on each person's mind, because then you start to get the kind of what, like almost the we firm kind of thing, like what's in it for me, but more like what do these people care about? And so in a conversation where you need to convince or influence or whatever, you've really prepared because you've thought about what do they care about, and then how do you find that middle ground, so that in that conversation, even if it's difficult, you've anchored to the thing you both care about, like, and then you move from there, because like what's totally understated is like starting with common ground, like establishing a place of kind of mutual concern or respect, and then going from there. And like a lot of things can be worked out through really open conversation, but like those little ones that like people just don't spend enough time thinking about, like there's typical things like, oh, build your networks, and like, you know, like, that's cool. No, it's all really important. Like, but like for me, I like to build my networks in a genuine way. I don't like hunt out networking, you know, like I was like, oh, that person's really cool, they're doing a cool thing, or like I'd love to talk to them about that, like that's really cool. Like, oh, you think, oh, like, oh, that person's done that thing and that's a thing I'm about to do, and like I really love their advice on how they navigated that. Like that's genuine networking. And that's really important. Like you should not shy away from that. But I think there's like really powerful tweaks, like foundational, like relationship type things that if you learn and embed and get super good at it, really like sets you apart.
There is some great piece around authenticity as well, and having authentic relationships with your stakeholders too. You're right. I think having like meaningful relationships rather than just for the sake of having a chat with them going, oh, well, I'm ticking a box because I've got to go chat to so-and-so.
Yeah, and I can't think of questions if I don't like genuinely want to ask a question. Like I just get kind of stuck, and I'm like, so I don't do it. Like I just like I only, you know, connect where I feel like there's a reason on either side as well. Like if I can give, I love to give. Like, but I don't like wasting people's time.
Of course.
You know, and that's another thing is like teaching people, you know, you, as you get more senior, whatever, is, you know, like you get a lot of people, vendors, this, that calling you, like being able to respectfully say, like, I know this is the outcome you're trying to achieve, but at this point it's not right for me, so I don't want to waste your time. Like respectfully declining is a really like good skill to have, because you're not breaking any relationships, because chances are you probably need that thing later on, but being able to honestly articulate, well, actually, like, sorry, at this point, it's not for me.
I think people would rather the honesty sometimes as well. So fantastic advice. Thank you so much for that. And Stevie, I want to say a big thank you for joining us today on the It Factor podcast. You've been a joy as always. And we're looking forward to having you back.
Thanks.
Thank you.